Welcome to Mpowered Living. I'm Ann Shu. On this podcast, innovative leaders and visionary experts share insights and practical tools for work, family, and marriage. Each episode, we'll explore how to elevate your life while staying grounded in what truly matters to you. You're working hard to navigate relationships, build a thriving family, and create a legacy of purpose. We're here to help you do that with confidence and intentionality. So if you're ready to live a life by design, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Mpowered Living, the podcast where we explore the habits and conversations that help us build more intentional, resilient lives. I'm your host, Ann Shu, and today we're diving into the power of gifting, how it can transform both your personal relationships and professional success. I'm joined by Sara Hardwick, director at Gift-ology Group, who is carrying forward the incredible legacy of the late John Ruhlin, founder of Gift-ology and a pioneer in the philosophy of radical generosity. In this conversation, Sara and I talk about how intentional gifting can deepen relationships and open doors in business, why John Ruhlin believed relationships can take you places marketing can't, the personal journey that led Sara to Gift-ology and what it taught her about connection. We'll also talk about common mistakes people make when giving gifts and how to avoid those mistakes. And finally, we talk about the mindset shift from transactional to transformational giving. Whether you're looking to grow your business, strengthen your personal connections, or simply rethink how you show appreciation, this episode is full of fresh insight and practical inspiration. Let's dive in. Sara, it is so great to have you on the show today.
And I'm so grateful to be here. So grateful to have met you once in person, but virtually works for today.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you're doing and kind of how all of this started?
Yeah, I'll start with my origin story of what has led me to this point of meeting you and being on a podcast. And it all begins with my connection with John Ruhlin and my employment at Gift-ology. I went to a seminar in college with my best friend and my roommate, Chloe. And the leader of the seminar asked us to Google something that we were really passionate about and put the word company behind it. Math, English, whatever. I didn't really have something that I felt like really could be my passion in my career at that point. And my best friend was like, Sara, you're such a good gift giver. Why don't you just look up gift giving companies? It's just a silly exercise. Let's see what happens. And I always joke that I guess John and Gift-ology's SEO was working really well that day. It was the first thing that popped up. I dove into all of John Ruhlin's podcasts and on their website and ended up buying LinkedIn Premium, waiting for John Ruhlin's little green light to come on. And I shot him a LinkedIn message and the rest is history. So was able to strike a chord, get in front of the right people, build the right relationship with John and his team. And now I'm a part of the amazing team, which I'm so grateful to be carrying on his legacy in this way.
That's incredible. I love that. Okay, so for the listeners who might not be familiar, can you share a little bit about what is Gift-ology? How did it all get started? And tell us a little bit about John.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not super clear from the name, Gift-ology does involve gifting, physical items, actual gifts, which is really fun. And then the ology piece of this is really like, how do we create this to be an art, a science, a system, a strategy, particularly when it comes to businesses? John started Gift-ology, this philosophy and also the business, when he was actually a Cutco salesman. Instead of going door to door trying to sell knives to the neighbors, he decided that the best way would be to position knives as business gifts for these companies to gift to their clients, their employees, as an appreciation tactic. That's where it all began. And now we still gift Cutco a lot, but we do plenty more than that. The whole role of this Gift-ology principle is that we should be taking care of our relationships at a deeper level. We're going beyond the typical Christmas gift, the onboarding transactional gift. If you're a business leader and you're doing some of those things that everyone else does, if we truly believe that relationships are important in our business, we need to take care of them in a meaningful way. And we have a whole slew of philosophies and principles that go behind Gift-ology to support that.
Love that.
what has been tell us about like the past year with Giftology and all that has unfolded.
Yeah. So the reason why I am here likely and not John sitting here is that unfortunately John did pass away late last year, in the summer of last year. And it's definitely been a whirlwind ever since. We're so grateful, me as his team, the rest of his team as well here at Giftology, to be continuing this legacy of John's and really this mission of his that generosity matters, that generosity can be a strategy, that relationships can take you places marketing can't. These are things that, yes, I'm speaking a little bit more in a business context, but John really believed wholeheartedly in his everyday life, in his family, the way that he took care of his inner circle and his friends. So we're just doing our best to honor him, to honor his incredible family in this process, and continue to keep the amazing movement of giftology alive that John began so long ago.
Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, I got to meet John a couple of times and he was incredible and I miss him so much. And but for the listeners, tell us about John the person, how he lived his life and how lived in a way that created this cult following. And really, I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, it's so devastating what happened, but it's been incredible to watch the the momentum that has built up behind continuing his legacy. Like you rarely see that when a founder, an entrepreneur passes away, the business is usually in shambles. And just to see how the team has rallied really speaks to how he lived his life and how he really was like walking the talk.
Yeah.
So many people have stepped up and like it speaks to like how many people he's touched.
Absolutely. Yeah, John was an incredible man of faith, an incredible father, an incredible husband, and an incredible friend to so many. And I think that's really what you're alluding to. And the amount of people that have shared with us that maybe they've only met John one time, and the way that they're stepping up to come behind our team, come behind his family in support, just speaks to John's ability to truly make everyone feel so special, to make everyone feel like they were his friend. We've heard that a lot over the past couple months. And so much so, actually, this is always a funny nugget that our team has told now a few times. John, for a lot of people didn't even know John had a business behind all of this. They're like, wait, like, what did John do? So he truly entered into every space that he was in, a lot of professional networks and masterminds and whatever that was to truly just add value to build relationships, and absolutely did amazing business opportunities and ventures come of it. Yes, but John led with that gratitude, that joy, that generosity, because that's who he was, not because he was trying to get something out of it.
Yeah. And that was my exact experience with it as well.
Yeah. And I always love, personally, the going back to, looping back to my college story of how I even ended up here. When I first joined the team, I was still in college interning for John and Giftology. And this just speaks to the way that he really did walk the talk. I mean, as an employee, the amount of gifts that were coming into my college apartment, my friends were like, "Who are you working for?" Like, they had all these like big Fortune 500 fancy internships. And they're like, and I got a pen, like I got a pen and paper. Like, who is this? And it just really speaks to the value that he put on people, the relationship that he really did value to take care of his family, his friends, his employees, the people that were in his circle. I speak to this all the time about at Giftology as employees. We have our date night once a month paid for with our significant other, and also a house cleaner twice a month paid for, which like those are the things I brag about John and the company that he created, right? Not like the 401k and like the insurance and all the things. And I think that just like that continues to prove that John embedded this that he had in his heart so deep into the core of his business as well.
Yeah. Tell me, share your favorite John story?
I think it has to be the last time I did see John in person, which was in Nashville at a strategic coach event, funny enough. And I had gone actually a day or so early to set up everything. John was coming in to speak a couple days later. And because John always wanted to give and give big, we had this incredible, huge, like
Art.
500-pound. You saw it. 500-pound art piece made that ended up not in the place it was supposed to be in Nashville. So I was running around like an absolute crazy woman trying to find movers and all these people to get a humongous art piece from one place to another. And John was even so willing, even though, he was a speaker that day, everything. He was like, Sarah, if we need to go across the street and like carry this art piece across the highway in Nashville, like I'm ready to do it. I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Did end up getting that figured out, got some movers, everything. But I think the way that I saw him in real time, in a chaotic moment, in a thing that he didn't have to worry about, that wasn't what he was there to do, take care of the situation with so much love and care, take care of me and make sure I was okay. And then also just continue to keep the piece of the relationship, and what I'm doing for this person is what's most important here. I know he tipped those movers very well that helped us. And even in my hotel room, him and our team member, Charlia, had a bunch of waters and snacks and electrolytes and everything for me the next day because they knew I was pretty worn out from that.
Can you tell the listeners about that art piece? Because I remember when you guys unveiled it and I was sobbing like a baby. I was in the audience watching it happen and I was so moved.
Yeah, absolutely. Our team does some pretty incredible things that really speak to always our gifts speak to the recipient. And that's a key part of the giftology philosophy. We're not gifting something that we like and think it would work for them, right? It really is particular to the recipient and their family and their legacy. So we were able to, with partnership of John's friend Chad Willardson, put together an art piece for Dan and Babs that was all made out of pages of some of Dan's books. And it was this beautiful picture of Dan and Babs that was, I mean, what, and 10 feet tall, maybe?
Yeah, it was.
And we have an incredible artist that does that with things like baseball bats and records and other meaningful pieces to individuals. But this huge thing came together. It was surprised on stage and presented on stage at the end of the event there in Nashville. And those were the things that like fired John up. Those big giving projects, the mugs that he used to do that he absolutely loved, which are these handcrafted mugs that walk through someone's whole entire life story. Those were the gifts that he knew would impact somebody deep down past a business level and really be part of that person's legacy and home forever.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's not surprising that that thing was 500 pounds. I had no idea, but when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, of course. That thing was huge.
Yeah, it is. It is. Those art pieces are heavy. And then I think also we had to like get somebody to pick it up and ship it somewhere and drive it back somewhere. The logistics of that one could have been a little bit better, but most of the time we are A-okay with all that stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of generosity that John lived by. Can you share with our listeners why it is so core to what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. Bible verse that John always would put in the forefront, and something I have written, I'm in the process of moving right now, so I don't have it right now, but I've written on my whiteboard, is Acts 20:35, when Jesus says that it's more blessed to give than to receive. And I truly believe that that's the foundation of giftology. That's the foundation of how John lived his life as well. And just the way that that has become embedded into our culture, we truly look at every opportunity of what's in it for them. How can we add value to them? How can a win-win scenario be created? It's not the book Giftology, but a book that's very popular, Give and Take by Adam Grant. I would say that's a great way to describe our business and how John looked at opportunity, which is there's givers, there's takers, and there's matchers in the world. You can utilize generosity and giving very wrong and fall in that matcher category where you're just giving just to get. And that doesn't get you anywhere. We truly give because we feel that it is more blessed to give than to receive. And the way the world shakes out, most of the time, that's where the success lands as well. Giving without expectation, giving because I think, we all have that gifting bone in our body over here at Gift-ology because it feels good. And then also knowing that the relationships that we are impacting, we say always get ROR, return on relationships. Even if it's not right away, the long game being played, the investment that you're making into these people and their lives absolutely at some point will come around. And we saw that full circle truly with John and his passing, and the way that, people that maybe spoke to him 15 years ago showed up in an incredible way for his team and his family.
What have you seen as some of the most interesting, unique stories that have come out of this generosity? Like the relationships that have developed, the cool things that have happened as a result.
Yeah, a story that John loved to tell from stage and to friends and all the things was early on in his creation of this business. He had an opportunity to build a relationship with Cameron Harold, who is still a dear friend to John and John's family and Giftology. John realized that he was coming to the States and knew that he was coming to shop at Brooks Brothers. That was one of the things that was going to be on his to-do list because they didn't have Brooks Brothers in Canada. After some delayed flights and the dinner that John planned not being able to be met with him and all the things, John decided to scratch all the typical, dinner and a ball game, and actually go into Brooks Brothers, buy the whole entire fall collection in Cameron's size, and have the hotel room merchandised for when he got to his hotel room. So that's a give big story for you, Anne.
Chills.
Yeah, from the perspective of Rod, his business partner, back in those early days, he was like, "What do you mean you're buying a whole fall collection?" But I think that just speaks to John had so much faith in people, in relationships. And, maybe the fruits of that didn't pan out for another 10 years when you do those big giving things. But I do think we all have an opportunity to probably give a little bit more than what's comfortable. And what John proved is that the return on that will always come.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I'll share this too, Anne. In Texas this year, in launching John's Beyond Gift-ology book that our team brought to completion, I had an individual who knows that story, who's read Gift-ology, actually put a few gifts in my hotel room. So the story lives on, the way that John has impacted people to give more, to give big, to be generous without expectation is even coming back and having its fruits on my life as well.
Yeah. So much of what we do at Empowered Journey is really helping people apply these simple business ideas and concepts into their family, right? Getting clear about values and vision and purpose and goal setting, doing that work in the family space. And I think this is a great tool that you guys have been working with your B2B clients, showing them, teaching them the power of generosity, the power of relationships, and how that really translates to referrals. Talk to me about how this same idea can be applied in the family space.
Yeah. Really the idea that we can help business leaders through generosity to get referrals, to get better retention rates, all of these things is really just through a process of better taking care of your relationships. Professionally speaking, we help a lot of service business leaders systematize the key relationships in their life and how they're keeping up with those people. And I think that's a system that likely can very much be applied to your audience's family life, but also their friendship life, maybe key relationships in their business life as well. It is just reality that unfortunately the relationship ball is the first one to drop. Although it's the most rewarding, fulfilling, we all know those things. We know that relationships are important in our personal lives, in our professional lives, but when we have a to-do list that's, 30 pages long, making sure that you check in with Susie sometimes doesn't make it. The box doesn't get checked. So I would probably say that coming up with some sort of relationship plan, even the things that we teach our service business professionals of calendarizing how you're going to demonstrate value in certain key relationships. That may be sending a book to somebody, sending a handwritten note to somebody, right? Those small check in points, if we're able to calendarize those in a way, even in our personal life, I think could be really, really beneficial for your audience to create a system around the relationships that they're building and nurturing.
Sure. What do you guys are working with clients, helping them build these relationships in the business? Do your clients also enlist you to help with their personal relationships, their marriages, their children?
Yeah, John actually would get asked this all the time, and jokingly enough, when people would come to us to be like, "Hey, I need help gifting my spouse," or "Hey, I need help for our 50th wedding anniversary," like John would be like, "I'm sorry, buddy, I think you're screwed. Like, if you're asking me for gifting advice for this individual that you've been married with, living with for 50 years, like there's nothing I'm going to suggest that would outdo what you know." So that's always been a funny thing, and how people have approached John and his answer to that, which I do have to agree. But I would say that a lot of the core giftology principles of gifting can absolutely be applied to family life and personal relationships as well. I think a lot of time we kind of resort to what we know, what we want for gifts, especially in marital relationships and things like that, but really thinking about the recipient in that situation and what they would like is really what the giftology philosophy is all about. We on those one-off scenarios do sometimes speak in and try to make something happen for our clients. Those mugs that I've mentioned earlier or those art pieces, those are absolutely things that we've done for families and for spouses before because they are so meaningful and have so much heart behind it. But when it comes to just, some random gifting here and there, we really encourage people to dig deep into the relationship. You know a lot about them. Put a handwritten note with the gift always. Use our philosophy, and you've got this. They can do it themselves.
What are some good questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about what's the right gift that's really going to wow them, touch their heart? What are those key questions that we should be asking?
Yeah, something we train a lot of service professionals on and business leaders, but I think it can be applied here is to always be writing down or making sure you're picking up on what I call relational golden nuggets. So, as you're going through the day with your spouse, as you're having a conversation with them, if they're mentioning this pan, I'm actually looking at a pan right now in my kitchen. This pan, it stinks. Like that, this is the most annoying thing to cook eggs on in the morning. The eggs always stick, right? Like that should be a relational golden nugget into your brain that then you act on. We run into those opportunities to demonstrate value, to gift, to show up meaningfully every single day, and we walk right past them just because we don't have, our antennas up and really think about what could come of this. So I think it starts there when it comes to showing up for a relationship is making sure that you're really taking note of what they are saying. And then also another concept I would say, or another question I would say to ask yourself, like, what do they really need right now in this season? I could have an example for myself. I know that my fiance is fairly stressed right now. Even though, his birthday was a couple of months ago, I knew he wanted some golf stuff and things like that for his birthday. But I decided to get him a massage and the golf stuff, right? So, like, those questions of really understanding what they need right now, maybe not just what they want, is important to showing up meaningfully.
Great. What do you suggest that people write in the handwritten note?
Yeah. Um, always, always, always keep the handwritten note personal and relational and filled with gratitude. That's probably a little bit of a PSA more so for those who are writing business notes and notes in professional capacity because they have a tendency to a lot of the time be like, thank you for the client or thank you for the referral, right? And we really want to show up in those notes with gratitude. when a note is being attached to a gift in, a birthday scenario or a show up meaningfully scenario where you're gifting, I always love to really position the meaning behind why I did this, why I showed up this way. I appreciate so much what you're doing right now for our family. And I wanted to get you X because. So I think making sure that you're not just writing happy birthday. If you have the perfect storm, what we always say, a giftology gift should touch all the love languages. You should have those words of affirmation in there that's teeing up the note. You have that gift. So I think it's really important to not be afraid to be deep, but also go ahead and make sure that the note tees up the meaning behind what you're giving them.
Great. And then talk to me about like logistics of delivery of the gift. What are the best practices that you've seen?
Yeah. Timing is the most important logistic of giving a gift, especially in a personal relationship setting. Probably the best time to, or not the best time to give your spouse a gift or your kid a gift is, when they come in running through the door and they're stressed about something, whatever, because just like recency bias and all the things kick in. And now I don't like that gift.
Yeah.
Because the world around me is pretty chaotic. So absolutely, I would say pick a time to give the gift to this individual that will create an environment that creates a meaningful moment for you guys. The timing also, we say no ABC gifting. Again, I still very much recommend that personal relationships, you probably should get a gift on an anniversary, birthday, Christmas, but that's table stakes. So if you're only showing up in those times and you're not showing up on those one-off random moments, we called it planned randomness, then that's definitely a miss as well. So timing is the most important logistic, but in terms of how our team handles logistics, I mean, we ship gifts all over the country all the time, tracking everywhere. But if you have the opportunity personally to deliver a gift in person, that's always pretty meaningful as well.
Tell us about the book, the new book, Beyond Giftology. What does it mean and what are you guys hoping it will do?
The giftology philosophy, giftology principles, this gifting movement and generosity was all packaged up into John's first book, Giftology. What has transpired over the past 10 years or so is really starting to understand that, yes, absolutely, while gifting is still super important to us, we think it's very important to businesses, to people, generosity. It goes beyond just gifting when you're taking care of a relationship. So that's where the title came to be, Beyond Giftology. The concept of the book itself and the content in the book is really more so about the systems that business leaders can create to earn endless word of mouth in their business. So our little tagline inside of there is that relationships can take you places marketing can't. It's all about the relationship. Then how do you make sure that you're focusing on the right relationships? How do you make sure that you're spending the right time with the right people, energizing those relationships in a way that's meaningful? And then ultimately, especially busy people that I know are in your audience right now, how do you make the time or create the systems that make sure that these relationships don't fall through the cracks?
What are you guys hoping will come about after this book? Like what is the impact that you're hoping it'll have on the business, on your clients?
I think from a brand perspective and from a legacy perspective, we hope that this book really does show people that giftology has been and always will be more than just about gifts. It's really never been just about gifts. It's been about relationships. And I think this book does a really good job of bringing that to the forefront and giving people some action steps to not just give better gifts, but to better take care of the relationships in their business. I really hope and pray that this book is successful for John's legacy as well. I think everyone will always remember giftology because, that was the core of him in the beginning and everything. But this book and the work that he put into that before he passed away and the ability for us to still launch that book in March and all the things, I think it really just is a nice end to a hard story.
Where can people find the book?
It's on Amazon, likely a lot of other places you shop as well. Giftologygroup.com/Beyond Gift-ology also will take you to a page to check out if you're interested.
And how can our listeners support you, the work that you're doing, John's legacy? What would be most impactful?
Funny enough, actually, this August, we are honoring a day to John to just encourage people to do a random act of kindness, to be generous past their typical means. So I would just encourage your audience to live out John's legacy in that way. If they would like more information on that, they can sign up for our newsletter at giftologygroup.com.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share? Anything that we haven't talked about?
And I just want to exude gratitude for the way that you've showed up for our team in so many different facets. You know, having me here, being a part of that book launch, I think that just continues to speak to how John really did keep up with and value the relationships and the impact that John had on people. And we're just so lucky and grateful and blessed to still be accepting and receiving the fruits of that. So, Anne, thank you for having me on today. I hope your audience knows that we absolutely feel so, so, so grateful for you and your generosity, especially.
Thank you for joining us today, Sarah. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for continuing John's legacy.
Thanks for tuning in to Empowered Living. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration and gave you tools to live more intentionally in your family, work, and life. If you enjoyed our episode today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story or actionable takeaway. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them, because living an intentional life is better when we do it together. Until next time, remember, the life you want doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. Let's keep creating it one step at a time.